till I'm buried in my grave. To the system, I don't wanna be a slave. I've been doing shit my way, or the highway. And in the driveway is a nice range, cause I grind through the climb, I invite pain. You'll never hear me, bitch, nah, I don't complain. Just gotta flip the switch and you can go and obtain anything you want, anything you need. Your mind's got the key ingredient, it's belief. They'll deceive with the negativity, but I just slide right by that energy. Even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never ran.
What's going on, everybody? Good afternoon. I'm your host, Ryan Anderson. Welcome to Get Buck for the Breeders' Cup, episode 2 on this Tuesday. I get to be joined by my normal co-host for Get Buck. That's Jackson Muniz, otherwise known as the Shohei Ohtani of Rec League softball. How's it going?
Yeah, big game tonight. We got the championships. We are trying not to lose our third straight championship game, so no pressure tonight, but we're going to get it done.
No pressure at all. Good luck there. But until then, we have a wonderful stacked show tonight. You can see at the header up at the top, we have the Breeders' Cup special, episode 2. We're focusing on the grass today. We got the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf Sprint, the Juvenile Fillies Turf, and of course, the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf. However, we have a very special guest to start, and going along with that, we're going to have a giveaway announcement. But before we bring on this guest and before we get to this giveaway, a couple things to touch on real quick. First, please like, subscribe. It helps the channel. And helps us bring us more fun content. Secondly, Breeders' Cup Power Picks. The link to that is in the description, presented by HHH Racing. Everybody that is a host over there, co-host, myself included this year, which is exciting. We're all going to be able to get to give our analysis on those races. Each and every race, you're getting our top picks. You're getting everything we got there. 30-plus pages of in-depth analysis. The ROI is fantastic. And then last little note there, last little note here with Jackson. This was broken earlier today. Chosen Vron is out of the Breeders' Cup Sprint after, I guess, not being too great in his last couple works. Not sure the exact details, but Chosen Vron, who was, I don't know if he was going to be the favorite, but he was definitely going to take some money, will be out of the Breeders' Cup Sprint. Wonder if he's going to return next year. Maybe he, runs again December or something. I don't know, but he's certainly done enough on the track to, give him, he can sail off into the sunset, I think, pretty well. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, he's a gelding, so there's no stud deal for him to be going, looking forward to. So I won't be shocked if they try to bring him back again next year, as long as he's healthy, obviously.
Absolutely. And you got to think, even against Calbreds, even if he's not, the monster that he is against the opening company, winning the grade 1 Bing Crosby, 2 years in a row, was it? And it's close second in the Pat O'Brien. This guy, he does nothing but run well. So hope to see him again next year. But either way, wish nothing but the best for him. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we get an awesome opportunity to be joined by none other than Matt Miller. Matt, how is it going?
Terrific. Great to be here, guys. Good to see you again.
Absolutely. We're excited to have you on here. Of course, Matt, you are the author of A Better Way of Thinking, which is an excellent handicapping book. For those that don't know, it gives you incredible insight to just kind of grow your ability as a horse player. Go ahead, Matt.
I was going to say, life advice, business advice, betting advice. I probably use those words more than handicapping. This is much more, you guys can do your picks and come up with your replays and all your fancy stuff. Give me your picks. This book helps with what to do next. How much to bet sizing, bankroll management, that kind of stuff.
That's all something that is very important. Sorry to cut you off there, Jackson. That is something that is extremely important, because handicapping and wagering are two very different parts of the sport. You can be an excellent handicapper, but you can be shit at wagering, and you're not going to make any money even if all your picks are right. And I would almost say the wagering side is probably more important when it comes down to it, because you could pick a number when you see a horse on the track, or you could spend hours handicapping that race. At the end of the day, if you don't know how to wager, if you don't wager correctly, you're not going to reap any benefits of your hard work or just visual guesses. But Jackson, go ahead and say what you were going to say.
No, I just got to see it firsthand about 2 weekends ago at Keeneland, when I don't think Matt opened up the form the entire 3 days he was there. And while he didn't win any of the contests, I know he had a pretty damn good weekend on the side betting cash. So just goes to show that the betting is a lot more important than the handicapping side.
Absolutely, it is. Knowing how to wager is the biggest part of this game, and there's no better book to read than A Better Way of Thinking, available on the website, abetterwayofthinking.com, www.betterwayofthinking.com. That link is in the description, and that's a great way to segue into our giveaway details and our first of 3 giveaways we're going to have on this channel for these Breeders' Cup shows. The first one here starts today. Please, in the comment section, you're going to want to pick the winner and the price. So the payout price, that's going to be the tiebreaker determiner of the Bryan Station Stakes at Keeneland. That is, I want to say, race 9 at Keeneland this Saturday. It is a grade 2 stakes on the turf. Wonderful card. I think we have an 11 race field going in there. That's this Saturday. Please put your predictions of your winner and the payout price. So, for instance, if you want to do I'm trying to think of one of the runners in there. Trickery, thank you. If you want to do Trickery, and Trickery pays $4.80, or I guess $4.82, because Kentucky does the penny breakage, so that's even more specific for us. So love that. That's going to be the tiebreaker there. It's going to be whoever is closest. We'll do kind of Prices Right rules as far as we go on that one. So again, giveaway. You got to subscribe to the channel, pick the winner and the payout price. Put that down in the comment section. Super excited that Matt was generous enough to give away a few of his books to help this channel. And Matt, we can't thank you enough. This is an excellent book. Again, teaches you all the ins and outs of wagering and all of everything that you need to know getting to the racetrack to place those bets.
And not just for the giveaway winners, but it really goes for anyone that's reading this or that's read it. I'm genuinely happy to talk about this stuff. I've been having the most fun time with people coming up to me, DMing me, calling me. They want to tell me their stories. They want to agree with or argue with what I said. It's been terrific fun. So it's not annoying at all. Actually, I really invite it, and it's been a good time.
Well, that is an awesome sentiment from you, because I can tell that you really just have a huge love for the game, as evidenced by everything in your book. And then, just your personality in general is one that's just, very welcoming, and you're all about that. So I'm happy that you enjoy talking about it, because that's kind of what we're going to segue into right now. Is there's 2 very different ways to bet in this game. Obviously, I'm a very big kind of horizontal player. I play pick 5s, pick 6s, everything like that. But my guy Jackson here, big tournament player. So I know he's going to take the lead on these questions for how you kind of play in a tournament setting, because the wagering there is vastly different as you're competing directly against other people in that tournament setting. So Jackson, go ahead and take it away.
It's a line. It's a line from one of my favorite movies, Avatar. I think she says something like, "We'll get you cured of your insanity." We'll work on you on those multi-race wagers, but for now, Jackson, let's connect.
All right, Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, but when you're going to the Breeders' Cup and you're approaching this, I would assume the first thing you're going to look at is what you're picking a target, right? Is the target score, and then work backwards from that. What are you thinking for this year? Because I know last year was a big outlier. I think the winner was over 230,000. You had someone else over 200,000, and then a third person was around 190, I believe. And I think that was all 3 of those scores would have been good enough any other year, as far as I know. Obviously, last year on Saturday, that was probably the chalkiest Breeders' Cup I've ever seen. So I'm not quite sure we're going to see the scores that high again this year. So what are your thoughts coming into this weekend?
I don't expect the scores to be anywhere near that high this year. And I say this with great respect for everyone who did well last year. I don't know that there was a ton of strategy going on at the end in terms of getting to an exact amount. I think it was more in the fashion of, I know I need to kill it, and I know there's some people here with big balances, so I need to push hard. But none of the conversations I've had with anyone in particular would have led me to think they had an exact dollar number they were going for. I'm throwing out last year as an aberration. I'm also going to throw out the flight line year because I think that one, with the free square on the end, I think everyone kind of had a built-in winner of sorts. It's just a function of how they used it, whether it was a $97,000 win bet or whether it was exacted or tries. For this year, I would say my target is right back to $125,000, right around there. I'm not being cagey here. That might change as the leaderboard changes and if I see particularly scary names. But I don't want, it's like the game of whack-a-mole. I don't want to hit the mole for reward too hard and have the one for risk pop up too high. And so my calibration right now says, get your bets to about, get to a balance of about $125,000 if you can. And if things go crazy and balances are high, I'm prepared to up that if I need to. I'm prepared to be as crazy as Brad Anderson was in 2019 and switch horses at the last second if I have to.
Right.
I'll do what it takes. That hopefully it doesn't take something that uncomfortable, but we'll see.
So the target is the target until it no longer makes sense to push for that target is kind of what I'm getting from you.
Absolutely. And almost nothing I see. Look, you saw it firsthand at Keeneland. The only time I would even peek at the leaderboard, I've now got enough good buddies in this game that I'm just curious how they're doing. But there's almost nothing I'm going to see on that board that's going to change my game or my play until I actually see a number higher than my target. And then I realize I need to do something. But the reality is an awful lot of people on that board, maybe they have a different target in mind. Maybe they don't have a target. Maybe they're more focused on where they are positionally relative to other people and not so focused on the dollars. Lots of strategies, and I don't want to be too mean or critical of any of them. But for me, it's been highly successful. Just pick a number, calibrate your risk to minimize the amount of risk you need to take to get to that number. And at that point, if you've hit your number, I'm going to knock on wood here. I haven't yet lost a tournament, barely, because I set a bad number. That'll be a bad day for me when I just, I really thought 17.5x would do it. And I mean, frankly, if someone hits 50x on that day, I don't really care. That's just an amazing day. Good job. You win. I was never going to get there. What I would really care about is if I set a number like 125 grand and 130 was the number, and then I'll start second guessing real quickly. But 125 is about the goal for this year.
Cool. Yeah, I think that was probably a good number for this year, especially at Del Mar. It seems like it's not the last two Breeders' Cups at Del Mar haven't been super heavily leaning on the favorites. There's been some horses that have won, obviously, but there's also been a number of shorter prices that have gone down. So I'm assuming it's probably going to be the same for this upcoming year.
I actually I skipped my normal attire for a podcast. I didn't go with the hoodie. I whipped out the 2017 Del Mar Breeders' Cup. This event was kind of the start of the current version of me as a player. And so I'm not allowed to wear this among with others out of the house, but I love it still.
When are you heading out? When do you get settled in and ready to go for next Friday?
So a big part of, it from the book, a big part of my game is preparation, is mentality, is manifestation of results and what you want to happen. And part of all that means, you guys can laugh at me because you're part of it, doing a whole bunch of planning in advance of the event so that I'm not scrambling with details at that point. I'm getting there Wednesday. I know it's a little early. And if I still had little kids at home, I'd probably come on Thursday because I'm taking advantage a little bit with that last day. But I get to go to the Turf Writers Association dinner, not because I wrote a book, but because I don't think that makes
part of the club now.
But Paul Halloran, a good friend of ours, actually invited me last year. The Dormans got honored last year. I'm friendly with them. It was terrific to see them. And actually, Paul's got another friend getting honored this year, and it'll be fun to see Sean Clancy. And there's just a lot of familiar faces at that dinner, and it's just a nice way to kind of ease into town. I'll go to the track on Thursday, make sure all the tickets and whatever and the entries are worked out, but that's a pretty chill day too. Friday's a different story.
Yeah, Friday's go time. All right, let's pivot a little bit towards your strategies on getting these minimums out of the way. Because I mean, I've listened to your podcast before. I listened to your book. Obviously, best case scenario, your best play of the weekend is on Friday, and you get 2-1 on it, whatever the price is, and they don't matter anymore because now you're at 20,000 or 25, whatever, and the $600 isn't relevant. I think this year is gonna be a little interesting because this is the first time in several years that there's not going to be a massive favorite in those dirt races where usually there's 4 to 5 horse, even money, something like that. Those dirt races look pretty wide open. I think Ryan would probably agree with that. There's going to be big, higher price favorite than usual, and the turf races are always a mad scramble. So, do you have any early insights on what you're doing or different things you're thinking about, maybe getting those things out of the way?
I do. I am steadfast in my belief that these minimums eat up too large a percentage of your bankroll to just ignore them. I would consider finishing Friday with $5,700 on both entries to be a bad job.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just not the way I want it to be. But to have lost about a third of my money, never really having been exposed to a big score that could have advanced me, I'm really hopeful that's not going to happen. One thing I'm going to put my eye on this year that I haven't in the past, maybe out of stubbornness, maybe just out of being a bit naive, I'm going to take a look at the races before the Breeders' Cup this year. Maybe I've just felt like that's not very sporting because it's supposed to be all the big, exciting, crazy races.
Right.
But money's money, and if those races count in this contest, maybe there's a spot there to do that.
Right.
So the bottom line is I would expect, or at least hope, that by the time I'm done with my handicapping and picking, I'm really hopeful there's a spot Friday where with both entries, it can be a full shove. It's very likely, knowing my strategy, one of those is in the toilet. One of them hopefully hits and is doing well. It would be tough entering Saturday with nothing. I'm prepared for it, but we'll see. And I might be one of those people with 2 entries at $5,700. If I don't find something compelling, I'll give you one other idea for something to do with these minimums. And I'm not just a one-trick pony, but it is what worked well for me in 21. The idea of, with 2 entries, getting some daily doubles rolling, especially in races where there aren't big favorites and payouts are good and probables all look pretty juicy, to take on one entry, maybe you do a $600 double or 2 $300 doubles. On another entry, the same race, pick totally different stuff. And the idea is, if you can get one of those, let's say you just did 2x2s, so all $300 doubles. If you can just get one of those 4 horses home in the first half, well, now you're alive to something. And now that next race takes on much different significance than it used to. If you're looking at 20-1 doubles because payouts were all decent, now you're looking at a $6,000 payout. Now you're talking, and now you can take either that entry or the other one and start firing some serious money into that race, knowing that you have a will pay coming back of $6,000. That might turn out to be your spot. You may not have identified that spot in advance of the weekend, but you catch something in one of these doubles where you're alive to something, it gives you a lot of choices. And that's the reason I like these doubles so much, is it kind of just puts a stake in the ground that this is what I'm alive to. Do I want to just leave it the way it is? Do I want to change picks? I mean, there are times that I'll take that $6,000 double and say, I'm actually going to go play some long shots for more, figuring, well, if the worst thing happens, I'll get the $6,000 double. But this might be a chance, like on house money, to go do something. So I like that strategy as you're trying to get something rolling, getting some doubles going, where if you can just get alive to something, you might find yourself in a position to act.
Well, I think also that shows the power of having the 2 entries on a day like Friday that's going to be so tough. You can get alive to 4 horses, like you said, instead of 2 if you only had 1 entry. And now you can, once you hit that first half of double, now you can a lot of doors opening for you.
And I'll give you another one. And I want to just pause for a second and say this isn't only applicable for the BCBC. This doesn't have to only be on $10,000 tournaments. All these strategies, this all works for smaller tournaments. It even works if you model your cash play in certain ways. One idea that I'm also thinking about, I haven't really in the past done a lot to merge my cash play with my tournament play like I do in a lot of tournaments. You'll see it all the time where I'll say, okay, in the tournament, I'm alive to 15,000 if this hits, which I'm pretty sure is a winning total. I'm alive to 36 grand on the 3 next best horses. I now don't care which happens because winning the tournament would be cool as hell. Winning extra money would be cool as hell. I try to structure it so I'm almost indifferent. The problem is in the Breeders' Cup, it's like you can't hedge that. You want it so badly that it would take such an obscene amount of money. Well, okay, that may be true at the end, especially because it would take a lot of money to bet at the end to really cover yourself. But think about it. Again, I don't know if it's a better way of thinking. It's certainly a different way of thinking. Think about a forward hedge where you're playing cash. You're not using your tournament entry yet. And essentially, let's take the daily double strategy I just outlined a few minutes ago. What if you were doing that in cash? And again, before someone yells at me and says, the BCBC is too expensive, it's $10,000. This works for other tournaments. Just scale it back. So
works for the Twin Spires $100 contest.
Right. This isn't only big game hunting stuff. It works for everything. But what if you essentially tried to advantage yourself in the tournament by hitting something in cash before the tournament for you starts? So let's take that first race at Del Mar. That's not going to be a Breeders' Cup race. Let's say I have an opinion on it. Maybe not enough that I want to start firing BCBC money at it right away. But I play a $500 double or a $1,000 double, and now I'm alive to a will pay of $20,000 in cash. Well, that would certainly get me to consider at least using my contest entries for minimums, maybe hedging that. I'm not sure how crazy I'd go necessarily, but if you can set yourself up for something on the side, if you missed, you can just wait and do it again. And so deploy those tournament entries at the optimal time to deploy them. That doesn't have to be the first ammunition you fire off. If you can get alive to something decent in cash, you're not hedging with the tournament. I mean, if anything, I'd say I would put the picks you really like the most in that tournament. So strategically, strangely, that double that you're alive to might be to your second choice in the race because you really want to bet your horse in the BCBC. So all kind of scattered ways of thinking or whatnot. But the point is, this doesn't just have to be simple and linear. And again, for the large number of people that are going to finish day one at $5,700, I've been there. Right, I've done that. Brad Anderson did that the year he won. I think that was with his winning entry. He got to 50. I think Drew Coatney may have even been below that number last year with it. So you're not doomed, but I would just not let those minimums happen to you by accident. You've got to seize control and make sure you're allocating your money when you want to.
Yeah, the first couple of contests I ever played, I had no business being in them. I had no idea what I was doing, and just trying to get these minimums out of the way, I was betting, show bets on the favorite. And to be fair, they never didn't come in the money, but it was just such a waste. We
could talk about that for a second.
Yeah,
is that stupid? It depends. It really depends. If you said to me, I have a super strong opinion at the end of Friday, and I'd essentially like to bet $1,800 on that, I'd say, okay, well then preserving those first two minimums is important. Right. And maybe maybe capital preservation is critical if you have that strong an opinion where you just need to save the money. But I would say otherwise, I would not just start baking up a strategy of thinking, well, on my minimums, because I'm going to be safe, I'll just play show bets on those. Like, no. You need to have a reason for that. And like I said, there might be an actual reason for that. So it's not a situation where I'd say never do that. But my thing in the Breeders' Cup is these are highly competitive races, large fields, payouts are generally terrific. And if I'm going to put money on the line, I mean, how many terrific horses from the past could you have bet on to show that you can't believe didn't show? You can't believe it. Like, this horse is a monster. So even what feels like a safe show bet isn't necessarily that safe. I say if you're putting your money down, you got to get some meaningful return on it. For me, I don't love the idea of just trying to burn a minimum by betting $200 to win on the 3 favorites, hoping one of them pops. Yeah, I'd rather do that thing with doubles and try and actually get alive to something.
Right.
Just play it too safe.
I agree. Okay, and then one of the last things I want to talk about is, I know you're very set on your target. You don't really care what's going on. You don't care about the leaderboard and everything. And I don't want you to, give away anything that you're thinking about really. But early on Saturday, I think there is an opportunity that a lot of big players are going to be taking a very long look at, with Cogburn, who's going to be, 2 to 5, and then what supposedly is a 2-horse race in the next one, the distaff with Torpedo and Idiomatic. And again, I don't want you to give anything away, which if you have any thoughts on that race, but would you ever give any consideration to just passing on that completely, just hoping that everyone else is going all in on that, and then you just need one of those horses to lose, and it's going to knock out, 50% of the field that actually has a legitimate chance of winning that thing?
So I love the contrarian idea. I do think Torpedo Anna is going to be a single for way more people than a lot of us realize. So I am like you. I am looking at that as a 2-horse race. I think there's a lot of people that aren't, and that's fine. It's not a disrespectful answer to your question. I just don't care.
Right.
I just don't care. And again, without trying to sound pompous, or there's so many different ways of doing these things. What I've observed with a lot of the competition, these aren't people that make $50,000 daily double bets. They just don't do it. Yeah, these are the best, biggest players in the world, all sorts of pros. I don't want to name any names. I'm not trying to pick on anybody in particular. Everybody has their own financial situations and their own values, but I can just tell you, I am not worried about a large percentage of the field doing anything that involves bets north of $20,000. It just doesn't happen.
Do you think a bet like that, $20,000 in the Breeders' Cup on a double, is that affecting the pools? Like I mean, obviously I'm not making sizes that big, so it does affect them a little bit.
For sure. And again, I'm not going to name names. I know someone that very brashly pounded certain double combinations in actually a couple years without learning that person's lesson, and created underlays. So I'll define that properly, but to created underlays in the double pool.
Right.
By that I mean, if they had just taken the stupid amount of money they bet on the double and just bet it to win, collected what they got, and then just put it to win on the next horse and collected what they got, it would have been better than doing that in the daily double because of what they did. I don't have a problem with making a bet that impacts a pool and knocks the price down. If I think that double should be 5 to 1 and it's paying 7 to 1, I'll bet it down to 5 to 1.
Right.
Again, I'm talking like a big shot. On Derby Day, it doesn't work like that. On Breeders' Cup Day, my money isn't big enough. But at smaller tracks or whatever, sure, I could have an effect that way. And so you might say, oh my gosh, you're being so stupid by betting against yourself. Well, no, if my value line is really at 5-1, I don't mind betting the horse down to that. So in defense of people that bet doubles excessively to the point that they might seem like underlays, you really have to know that person's value line before you can get too critical. But in general, when you can just do a manual double by making the win bets, you're probably not doing a great job of betting if you're putting too much money in the double.
I like it. I like it. Ryan, is there anything you want to ask or you want to talk about?
Last question for you. And again, can't thank you enough for all the time and all the excellent insight. And again, being so generous as to donate 3 of your books for us to give away here. Appreciate all the time. Let's say, for example, you're a tournament player, you're in the BC. It's the last race of the day. So obviously everybody's chasing the number one spot. You mentioned your, quote unquote goal of 125K to win the thing. So let's say you're at X player is at 127,000. So you're in first, and then you see behind you, you have a few that are maybe 115, 120 in that range. So they're, in a catchable range of you. How do you play that last race? How do you play that last race to kind of?
The answer I'm going to give you is going to make the world very uncomfortable. If it's really that tight, and if there's a bunch of people at about 100 grand, my new target's 251,000.
I like it.
Probably betting it all.
Nice. Yeah. Chips in the middle. I like it.
It's the Breeders' Cup, and it's $10,000. And you can argue all day long on whether that's a $125,000 bet or whether it's a $10,000 bet. I'm not stupid. I know I could cash out. I have maintained a massive mental advantage over this field by convincing myself it's only 10 grand. So please don't try to convince me it's not. I like thinking this way. It's a very dangerous way to play. But right, if I was really in that sort of a position, I would. It's the people behind me. It's the simplicity with which they could leapfrog me that I'd say, yeah, I'm just. My sledgehammer up to the target kind of thing. Yeah, I'm picking up the sledgehammer again. This is not going to be some artful little strike trying to catch an exact at the last second. One other point to make about the end. I do think it depends on the system that's being used by the tournament. So I don't want to sound like Mr. Expert on this, but daily doubles don't always get properly reflected when you're looking at your balance in a tournament. Right. Sometimes the system waits for you to lose the bet before subtracting it. And so it is definitely a strategy of mine. Well, I can't say definitely. It's a possible strategy of mine for this year to essentially try to mask my balance by having some daily double money in there. So it does make it hard for people to figure out, did this imbecile just shove it all to win on the favorite again? Or is there something a little more artful to his approach this time? Yeah. We'll see.
Yeah, because I know Keeneland was like that. I made a big double on Friday, and I hit the first leg, but it said I was out of the contest, which I was not. I was still live. So it's like you said, it kind of depends on where you're at.
Yes, and that's why I don't remember the one from the Breeders' Cup, but by the end, it all sorts itself out. But as you're looking at any particular race, you'll find some contestant that says, yeah, it hasn't subtracted something for me yet. There's nothing nefarious. There's nothing wrong. It's just the way they account for doubles. Sometimes they take it out of the first, and sometimes they take it out of the second.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That was excellent insight into both answering the question and then some added one into, some hidden strategies, if you will, kind of how you can play with that money being masked in the doubles. That's certainly a strategy that would be useful, if you're in those tournament plays. Absolutely. Again, what, Jackson?
I was just saying,
if you're in that envious position at the end, that's great. And
absolutely
things to think about.
Awesome. Matt, I can't thank you enough for all the time, all the excellent insight. Again, for the books. One more time with the giveaway details. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. That's at the Gallop Out right here. Pick the winner and the payout price of the Bryan Station Stakes at Keeneland this Saturday, October 26th. Put your predictions down in the comment section. Whoever is, either spot on or is the closest, Price is Right rules, wins a copy of A Better Way of Thinking shipped to your doorstep. Again, Matt, I cannot thank you enough for your generosity and for your time. Thank you so much for joining us today.
All right. You bet. Thanks for having me, guys.
Take care.
Thanks,
we'll
Matt.
see you out at Del Mar next week.
All right. You bet.
All right. Awesome. That was incredible. Yeah, huge round of applause for Matt Miller there. That was awesome. Now getting into the Breeders' Cup kind of coverage section, not so much the betting, but the coverage of the horses in the race. We get to be joined by our next guest, someone I'm very excited to meet for the first time, but I've heard on the mic for about 5 years since I got into racing, because I found this track called Turfway Park, and then shortly that next summer I discovered Ellis Park. He is the announcer for both of these tracks. That's the one and only Tony Calo. Tony, how are you doing?
I'm all right, guys. How are you?
Doing great.
Yes, I can.
Great. Thank you for
great.
Perfect. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us this evening. I'm excited to talk some Breeders' Cup with you. We have obviously an excellent 3 races to cover with the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint, the Breeders' Cup Fillies Turf, and then the Juvenile Turf. I might have forgotten to put a juvenile in that second one, but the 3 juvenile turf races, the Sprint, the Fillies, and the Boys.
There you go.
Yeah, there we go. I'm excited to get into it. Obviously an excellent card, 2-day race meet coming up here. Are you coming out for the Breeders' Cup by chance, Tony?
I can't make it. I'm going to be working at Churchill for we start our fall season coming up this Sunday. So I'm a little envious you guys will be there.
That's all right. You're going to have a great card to cover on Tuesday. Quick teaser for the weekend. Jackson, you and I are going to be covering that Sunday late pick 5 at Churchill Downs on, I believe we decided on Friday. So we're going to be covering that. It's all 2-year-olds that day. It's one of my favorite days of racing at Churchill, just because you always have the opportunity to find a price. You have those up-and-coming 2-year-olds. And a lot of them, at one point had Breeders' Cup kind of aspirations, or maybe they just weren't ready in time, but there are a lot of excellent stake races in there. Some just kind of point to that because it's a logical kind of move forward. You really got to respect the trainers and the connections for, aiming for a logical spot with a 2-year-old that type of year. We have Derby points on the line out at Churchill Downs. It's going to be an excellent card. So I'm sure you're just as excited to be over at Churchill Downs as you would be over at the Breeders' Cup.
Yeah, without a doubt. It's going to be a great card on Sunday. I haven't quite got there yet. I did look at the Streets and Sandman. Mark Cassie's been really high on Sandman throughout. They paid $1.2 million for him. He was the buzz in his debut, and he didn't quite run to it. Came back and validated with a huge run at Saratoga. His Iroquois wasn't quite what we wanted, but perhaps getting the 2 turns going a mile to 16th in the Street sense that he can be a lot tighter. I know Mark's been really big on him.
Absolutely. Yeah. Excited to see that. And now if we could segue into the Juvenile Turf Sprint is going to be the first race that we talk about here. Let me get the as close as we could get to the past performances up on the screen. The first one I want to talk about, you'll see up at the top. That's Governor Sam. I believe the first pre-entry past performances come out actually tomorrow night, so we just missed it. But this is going to be more than enough because I know we've all done our work on who we're interested in on the backside here. So we're going to look at Governor Sam. Those numbers below for any watchers that are curious. Those are the last 3 buyers. If you see the words or the letters NA, that just means they're basically coming from overseas. And obviously we don't have buyer speed figures for over there. So Governor Sam coming off some 77, 75, and 78 buyers last time out. Last race finished first in the Indian Summer at Keeneland. What attracted you to this horse, Tony?
Well, obviously his record, other than the debut run, he's been pretty solid, rattling off 4 in a row. He seems to be probably the best of the American contingency. This is an interesting race with the Juvenile Turf Sprint because the Americans have fared pretty well. They're just quicker. The Europeans run at such a slower clip early on that these 5 furlong turf races, and that's the key. It's a 5 furlong turf race, I do believe, at Del Mar.
Yes, it is.
So Americans have fared pretty well, and he seems to be the best of that lot. He's versatile. I don't think he necessarily needs the lead, although he has had it in his last couple of starts. But you go back 3 races ago, sat a nice little trip. I am a little concerned. He's coming back just a little quick. He had that lengthy layoff after the debut at Gulfstream, but they've been kind of going to him. They've been going to the well a lot. 19th of May. Or the 11th of May is when he ran, and then he surfaces back at Saratoga. A lot of races in a short span. That I always find a little concerning.
Definitely, yeah. Having that many races, especially as a 2-year-old, you're getting new. You don't want them to peak too early. You certainly don't want to. You don't want to run them too much. You don't want to have them, have too many. Get too many of their A races, so to speak, out of their system. So we'll see, though. Governor Sam, trained by George Weaver, who is excellent with his 2-year-olds. So that is certainly one of the big contenders. Another one that you wanted to talk about was Kilwin, who is actually not on this probables list. But I would love to hear your thoughts on Kilwin, because that was a horse of interest that I had noted down as well. So obviously we aren't sure who's for sure shipping over yet, but he is a probable.
Yeah, she caught my attention with her big debut run at Ellis Park. She was sensational when graduating that particular day, and I thought her race at Kentucky Downs was equally as impressive. Now I know so far the past performances I have, they do have her listed possibly to run in the juvenile fillies on the turf, so maybe that's where she's going to going with that 5.5 at Ellis to 6.5 at Kentucky Downs. But ultra impressed with what I've seen from her so far in her 2-race career.
Absolutely. Real quick, as a very brief kind of tangent, there is a stat of Kentucky Downs runners going into the Breeders' Cup. If you're, I'm sure you're familiar by your non-smile, where they are. I believe it's 0 for 36.
Higher now.
With higher now, I think. 0 for 41 or something. I should have had the exact stat, but 0 for coming into the Breeders' Cup with Kentucky Downs being their last start. Obviously we have a horse running Saturday who's going to exactly going to be your heaviest favorite of the weekend, I would imagine.
He will be. Yeah,
he's going to be your heaviest favorite of the weekend. Is that something where we don't have to talk about the turf sprint necessarily, but for any race on turf, when you're doing your handicapping, when you're doing your closer looks, is that something you take into account if there's a stat that glaring?
Well, obviously, statistics of that alarming rate, you kind of have to look at. I guess I'd be a little bit more concerned with a horse that was at lower odds, perhaps. But, statistics, all it takes is a couple of those to change. All of a sudden, you get 3-4 of them happening in a 2-year span, and that percentage will increase just a little bit. But, it is a little bit concerning. It's there, and I think it's like 0 for 17 in California, if I saw that correctly. So, we'll see. We'll see where she surfaces. Obviously, if we're going to get some value, if she even runs in the 2-day affair, then if we're getting value, then I think it makes a lot more sense. I don't know what you do with Cogburn. He's going to be such a short price, and I'll tell you what. I guess if there was a horse that is ready to buck that statistic, it probably would be him. He's just been sensational so far in 2024.
Absolutely. And I'm happy you brought up the accuracy of statistics, because I'm looking at this stat, and only 4 of those horses who made their last start at Kentucky Downs were the favorite going into that race. So that's 4 out of a grand total of, it looks like 0 for 101 is the, for any start, I'm sorry. 0 for 32, including 0 for 17 in California. Is the stat that I'm looking at. It was 0 for 101 having any start kind of a thing. But
if you dig deeper into the stats, I'd be curious what it's up against horses coming out of California or horses coming out of New York or Kentucky or Florida, because the Americans haven't won hardly any turf races in the last 6 or 7 years. It's not like all the Americans are winning. The Euros have dominated. So I don't know. I feel like it's something you just it's a stat.
Exactly.
I'm not concerned about it.
Exactly.
Especially
I just want... Absolutely, yeah. Cogburn's going to be tough, especially going the 5 furlongs. But to get back to the juvenile turf sprint, Asterius for Archie Watson, obviously a shipper coming in. Another horse that you had on your radar. We have the projected morning line made by David Aragona, or Grennick.
Yes.
My bad. Aragona, thank you. Asterius for Archie Watson. This one was on your radar. What were your thoughts here?
Well, I watched that race from Doncaster. I watched the replay earlier today, and I was very impressed with both Asterius and Big Mojo. I kind of think Big Mojo was the one that I wanted to go forward out of that affair. He just had some action that I liked, but, there wasn't much in separation under the wire, and I suppose if I'm going to be on one, I'd have to probably give a good look to the other. But of those two, Big Mojo was the one. There was just something about his stride, and it's so hard to figure out how those horses that perform well in those straight races at Europe will do when they have to negotiate the one turn. It's a whole different game. And maybe if Big Mojo can get a little bit of cover, he has tactical speed and get some cover. Both of those two look very solid. And, it's tough. You've given me a tough assignment, guys, or you're asking me to talk about the 3 toughest races of the 2 days, and we don't even know who's in the races yet.
Absolutely. Yeah, we didn't want to make it too easy on you, Tony, but I certainly appreciate all the insight. You've clearly done your work here. And you brought up great points with Asterius and Big Mojo with them having only run in those straight flat furlong races. That being said, that you do have to love that they go the distance of 5 furlongs. So they're not one that's, cutting back too sharp, coming from 6 back to 5 or anything like that. Well, they haven't gone around those left-hand turns or really any turns so far in their career. That's certainly something you have to wonder about. That's something you may want to, we might want to pay attention to in those morning works during the breakfast at the Breeders' Cup when they kind of get their feet on the ground and kind of get going. You want to see how they're able to corner because that's something that's brand new for them. But that being said, I think based on pure talent, Big Mojo, I like that you would, prefer this horse coming out of that race over Asterius. I kind of agree. Again, a lot of it to me is going to come down to how they corner as well.
Post positions will have a huge thing. Turf racing post positions are very pivotal. You want nice inside trips. You want covered up trips. Going to talk about one more horse, Shareholder, which is very interesting. This horse has just had all sorts of issues trying to get out of the starting gate now. 5 furlongs in North America in a Breeders' Cup type of race. Boy, you don't want to be consistently with dwelt starts, and that's been the case with him, 3 starts in a row. So he's going to have to figure out what's going on in his pre-race gate theatrics if he wants to be a player.
Absolutely. Yeah. Gate theatrics is something we see a lot of with these 2-year-olds is they, they're nervous. It's still kind of a new environment. You got to wonder how the ship is going to take effect on Shareholder. But I think based on pure talent, this horse clearly has a lot of raw ability. And if this horse can kind of mature and piece it together, definitely going to be a huge threat. But you mentioned some great points with those gate issues acting up. That's going to definitely affect the price that you're going to get on this horse. If it's something you think this horse can overcome, that's a great angle to play because it's going to get, it's going to give you a higher odds come post time more than likely. And then, secondly, you do have to kind of have that as a negative if this horse has repeated gate problems like this one. Something I do like about Shareholder is the cutback to 5 furlongs. Definitely didn't handle the 6. So I think 5 is going to be.
He got off to that bad start, and he was right behind Whistle Jacket the entire time, and he just couldn't make up the necessary ground when it mattered the most. So I do like your cutback theory. That's going to be big. When other horses might be coming up empty, we know he's got it in him. He's got the foundation, the stamina. He's just got to get out of the gate. He doesn't have to break like a rocket ship. He just has to get somewhat of a better start, right?
Yes, absolutely agree. So can't get left, has to have a good start. That flat 5 furlong is no joke out at Del Mar. That is a quick 5. They're going to fly. And you mentioned a horse that we're going to segue right into right now that's running in the juvenile turf, and that is Whistle Jacket. That was a horse that's going to catch your radar. Your likely favorite, at least leading into the race, is your favorite on the projected morning line at 4-1. Obviously, all these races are going to be excellent betting races. But we have Whistle Jacket here. Coming out of a second at Newmarket. What are your thoughts here?
Well, I watched the replay and I'm trying to get it here on my iPad to the left here. Sorry, I'm not catching you guys right now, but he just had a good look to him. He had a big individual, good body to him. And I thought his action was solid and he ran very valiant all the way to the wire. And I think the 2 turns will even be better for him. Getting a little bit more real estate should not be a problem. And he looks the goods. And, Jackson mentioned it, how the Euros have just been so dominant the last few years. And especially in the juvenile male turf, the fillies, Chad Brown had so many good fillies for so many years that the Americans have really held their own over the years, but not the case with the males. The Euros have just come over and have dominated. And we know that they're just superior turf horses. They have such a turn of foot, and Whistle Jacket just looks to be the goods, in my opinion.
Yeah, he certainly looks the goods. He looks the part. He runs like a true horse that's going to relish this distance, relish these 2 turns. coming up in the Breeders'
His
Cup.
dam was pretty successful. The last race she had like 4 or 5 races in Europe, and I looked her up, and then she ran a very valiant fourth in the EP Taylor, going 1.25 miles at Woodbine, and was just rolling and was like the fourth nose on the wire. So, if the dam can get that kind of ground, this mile on the 16th should not pose any problems for Whistle Jacket.
Yeah, absolutely agree. And I'm of the belief where if a horse ships over and they've only been running 7 furlongs, I'll give them an extra furlong over in America. That typically translates no problem with the kind of, trying ground, undulating ground, whatever the conditions may be that they face over in Europe. They come over, you're getting fast and firm at Del Mar on Breeders' Cup weekend. There's no doubt about that. And it's going to be, very, very firm.
The other thing that we don't really talk about a lot that we probably have to kind of keep an eye on is the weather, because, if you get really a very, very warm late October, early November day in California, and it's been a little cooler in Europe, we've seen it take its toll on the Euros when they come over. So I would definitely tell the fans to keep a close eye, see what the weather's been like in Europe the last 2 or 3 weeks, and definitely try to see what's going on in California, because sometimes at that time of the year it can get scorching, especially in California.
Absolutely. As your local San Diego resident, right now it's about 80 degrees. I'm a little bit inland and south of Del Mar, but up at Del Mar it's about 75 and sunny, so it's really not that different.
Not too bad.
Not too bad. Your typical San Diego weather. You do have a bit of an ocean breeze, which is nice, and weather looks to be pretty consistent going into next weekend. But yes, that is an absolutely great point, because they're coming over from the chill in Europe, and they come over and it is sun, no clouds, which to us, beautiful weather. To a horse, that can definitely throw a horse off, that can get them hot, that can get them warm.
Maybe it's a little bit more likely at Santa Anita, where it's a little more inland, I guess. When you get that cool breeze coming off the Pacific Ocean over there at Del Mar, maybe it's not so bad for them.
Yeah, without a doubt. And then the next 2 horses I want to talk about, or I want you to give your thoughts on, are coming out of the same race. That's the Grade 1 Summer Stakes up at Woodbine. They finished first and second. First was New Century by Andrew Baldwin, and then second was Al Qudra, trained by Charlie Appleby, who obviously is always a force when he brings over any to the U.S. and especially on Breeders' Cup weekend.
Yeah, they both look pretty cool. That's for sure. You go back and they have a good little rivalry going. That's for sure. New Century finally got the better of them, but Al Qudra kind of was holding his own and taking it to New Century when they were in Europe. It'll be interesting to see which one will really relish the added real estate. A 1 mile affair at Salisbury for New Century on the 14th of August. The summer, that's a 1 turn, 1 mile at Woodbine. So that's the big question mark. I'm going to have to get a little bit tighter with my pedigree and just make sure all these horses have got it. Because sometimes, you will get these Euros that look so impressive, the 2-year-olds, and they're just not really cut out for the extra real estate. But they both look like they should be able to cover the ground. But, as you guys are both well aware of, that's not necessarily the case with late running sprinters sometimes, late running 1-turners.
Exactly. Yeah, completely agree. That's excellent analysis. I thought the ride Al Qudra got in the summer is a trip that I want to play back coming into the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf over blanking on the name, over New Century. So Al Qudra is probably going to be my play. I'm with you. I have not formulated any final opinions yet. We're still a little too far out. I do like to pay attention to the post position draw without a mile. That's definitely important at Del Mar. We all know how tight those turns are. So yeah, you want to have them get a good trip. And any way you look at it, these turf races are deeply competitive, and you are going to have some good payouts, because there's some good Japanese and European runners coming over. And not all of them can be 4-1, 9-2 on the board, but they all have so much raw ability. It's really going to come down to the post position, the break, and the trip.
Yeah, I was talking with Caitlin Free earlier. She's really big on the Japanese, so I go to her for the insight, and she said the Satono Carnival looks like a pretty decent individual coming over from Japan. And I don't have PPs on one of the horses that I think is going to be in the race, Camille Pizarro, maybe, but either one of you could elaborate a little bit on that horse.
Unfortunately, I can't either. I haven't been able to find the past performances, but we see right here projected at 6-1. Yeah, I have no trainer information. Nothing like that. Wasn't able to find any PPs yet. Separately. Hopefully they come out tomorrow, and hopefully this horse is included. Because I did hear this horse is going to be coming over, but certainly a talented runner.
Yeah, Caitlin had mentioned that one's name as well when I reached out to her this morning. She's all, here's a couple horses that you probably want to mention on air. This is a tough task. We're trying to figure out who's going to get into this race and go from there. But we're doing the best we can, and it's going to get us all excited. I know I'm pumped up. It's a great 2 days, huh?
Yeah, it absolutely is the most fun 2 days in racing. I don't think without a doubt.
That's another O'Brien horse. That's about all I could find on him based on
Yeah.
Google. But
Jackson, are you going to be in the Breeders' Cup contest yourself, or?
Probably not, but still an outside chance. So we're
still trying to get that qualifier in.
I have 2 entries in the very last qualifier, which is the day before. So it's going to be very, very last second if I do get in.
Yeah, no, that's a contest I've always wanted to play. I still have not been able to get in there yet, but gosh, that'd be a pretty cool one. That's for sure.
It would just be so much fun. I don't even know. I obviously want to do great, but it'd just be fun to be a part of.
Yeah. I was listening to the earlier guest, and that's a gutsy move. You get to the nightcap and you got 125,000 and he's got himself mentally convinced it's a $10,000 wager. So look at that guy, huh? Remind me not to play poker with him, huh? We'll just
that is an excellent
BCBC winner. He's very good at what he does. So, those are the guys you're going up against in that contest, man.
I know you're getting the big dogs, that's for sure.
Yes.
You definitely are. You're jumping in the pool with a bunch of sharks in there, but it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Real quick,
what's the old saying when you're in a tournament? I guess on the poker table and you're looking around, you're trying to figure out who the fish or the donkey is, and if you're asking, then it's probably you.
Yeah, 100%.
100% it's you. Real quick before we move on to the juvenile fillies turf. Do not let this horse Santono Carnival go off at 20-1. This Japanese shipper has definitely had talent. Watched a couple of his races over in Japan, including that last out effort. And again, Japan comes here with a purpose. They're not coming here just for fun. They're not coming here just to run around and to make a couple left turns. They are coming to win. They're bringing 19 horses is their main goal. So really one that merits respect in my book.
What was it? Was it? I believe it was 2 summers ago, or two Breeders' Cups, or 2 years ago in the Breeders' Cup when they really made their presence felt. They just seemed to be firing on all cylinders, and they've had such an international, just kicking butt all over. They almost won the Kentucky Derby. It's just a matter of time before they're going to do that as well.
Yeah, I mean, they bring it every year. It's like you said, it's just a matter of time if they ever get a good trip, because that's kind of been their issue the last couple of years in the Derby.
Yeah.
It absolutely has. But, you had the horse that ran on Derby Day, T.O. St. Denis, who ran in one of the, I think it was the mile and a 16th race. And they came with intentions. They sent him straight to the lead. Yes, they sent him fast, but he held on for second at a huge number. So that just shows that they come with a purpose. They're not scared. They're not going to do, anything that is going to hamper them. They're going to do what's best for their horse, and including in the Derby, a couple years ago, as you guys were kind of talking about, they sent 2 or 3 of their horses and they went sub 46 to the half mile. But that was what was best for their horse. So they tried it out. So you really gotta respect that one.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Last race to talk about here is the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies turf. Horse where I think it's probably your most sure winner, at least in my opinion, of the turf section of these races. For the juveniles, and that's probably Lake Victoria. If Lake Victoria comes over, this is a real runner for Aidan O'Brien, and I don't want to say I'm upset if this horse ships over, but as a West Coaster, I'm a big fan of Thought Process and everything I've seen from her so far this summer. But if Lake Victoria comes over, this filly looks like a monster. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I was kind of looking at her numbers and her record. Seems to be doing everything incredible. Frankel, Blood, Galileo, out of a Great Britain mare. Hard to fault anything she's done. So definitely would have to be very, very one of the top picks. That's for sure.
Definitely is. Another one of the top picks, and a horse I know you have some interest in, is a couple away at a morning line projected at 8-1. That's Heaven's Gate, also trained by Aidan O'Brien, coming out of a first place finish at the Curragh. What were your thoughts on Heaven's Gate?
Well, Churchill Blood up top with Danzig underneath. And, here we go. We talk about how the Europeans have been so dominant so many years now on the turf races. It gets difficult. You have to really kind of go watch some replays and, wait for post positions and try to obviously, read between the lines and read some of the interviews, get the comments to see who might handle the firmer turf better than the soft ground that they're accustomed to in Europe. But it's just hard not to really respect any of the Europeans that come over in these type of races.
Absolutely. Talk about the Phillies turf. This is a race where I think Americans have had kind of their highest degree of success of these 3 turf races of the juveniles. Which American-bred horse do you think has, in your opinion, the best shot of taking down this race?
Well, what was I looking at? There was, I'm a fan of Vixen. Obviously, I called her at Ellis Park. I loved her gallop out in her debut run. I loved her graduation score, covering a ton of ground, coming home in 22 and change. Recently, yeah, I bet her too that day. I liked her. Yeah, maybe that's why we didn't get 5-2 or 3-1.
Yeah.
She ran well. Hey, settle down. Got the dog. Maybe she liked Vixen as well. So I don't know.
Yes, I like that.
Yeah, coming home at 22 and change. And I like her spacing coming into this. She's had a lot of races in a short span. My dad taught me a lot about handicapping when I was really, really young. And he used to preach about spacing and giving horses ample time between starts. And I've just been a big proponent over the years. And, she debuts in late July and has her 3rd start in the middle of September. Now she's going to get close to 6 weeks. And I know she was defeated by another gal that could be in there, but I'm fond of her. Destino d'Oro, I thought looked very well in the Jessamine. I thought she was actually getting to the 2, and she's the one that I want going forward out of that. And I went back and watched the Miss Griot because we talk about American horses, the fillies that have done well, and obviously Chad Brown is the one that you have to look at there. But the one that was the runner-up, Virgin Colado, I liked her the best out of that because I thought the pace was absolutely soft. There was a gal on the front end who blew the turn, and Chad's other filly benefited with the inside. And as 3 of them were blowing the turn, she got the perfect trip. And then the other stablemate was running on strongly into a soft pace. So maybe with a legitimate pace, that's the one that I would want from Chad's barn.
Yeah, absolutely. Virgin Colada, my Pacific Horse Players co-host on the HHH Racing channel. That's his favorite horse. That's probably running on Breeders' Cup Juvenile Day. Our very own Matt Miller, he likes that pick as well. Nice. Yeah, Virgin Colada coming out of that race is certainly a play. Tony, I really appreciate all the time you gave us today.
Right on, guys.
I am really excited to listen to you call Turfway this winter. Turfway has excellent fields, excellent purses. They have great racing all winter long. You guys really, carry the weight when those other tracks shut down just because it's a little bit too cold. Last little favorite note of Churchill Downs this weekend on Sunday, you have the first foal of Midnight Bisou that's going to be running. So cool. I'm excited to see how his progeny does. But yeah, again, thank you so much for the time, Tony. Take care.
My pleasure.
Awesome. Enjoy Churchill. Enjoy Turfway. Hope to speak to you again soon.
Awesome. Thank you for having me, guys, and go make some money at Breeders' Cup.
Thanks, it. Buddy. Take care. All right. That was Tony Kalo. Awesome insight there. We have our next guest waiting in the wings. I'm excited to speak with her. First time I've officially met her. Same with you, I believe, Jackson. Kind of new on the scene over at NYRA, covering, Aqueduct, we should say. Saratoga gave out a $42+ winner at Keeneland in the race that, what was that, Brad Cox horse that was supposed to run off the screen and ran off the screen the other way?
Patch Adams.
Patch Adams, that's the one. Yeah, Kaylee didn't pick that horse. That's a little teaser for the guest. It is Kaylee Shapiro. Kaylee, what's going on?
Hi, how are you guys? Thank you so much for having me.
Doing good.
Absolutely doing good. Thank you for joining us. Excited to talk about the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf races. Before we start, though, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, how you kind of got into the industry? And I know you're out at Keeneland right now doing something fun.
Yeah, just got back from the sale actually a few minutes ago. I'm out here with my dad. That's actually how I kind of got into the industry. I grew up around racing. My dad's involved in a little bit of pin hooking and racing. He has a few horses, brood mares, so I've always been around it. And then actually in the 2022 Breeders' Cup was when I really caught the bug and realized that I wanted to do something in this. So once I graduated, I started working at NYRA Bets just about over a year ago now. And it's been great. I work in operations and I do a little bit of marketing. And just recently I started doing content with Matt DeSantis, which has been a lot of fun and I really enjoy it. So
absolutely. Thank you for all of that. Yeah, Matt DeSantis is a great guy. He joined me way back on the second episode of my show or something like that. And we get to talk to him, Jackson included, on this Monday. I want to say Monday is when he's joining us. So I'm excited. Yeah, sounds right. Schedule's all over the place in my head right now, but
busy time.
But yeah, I'm excited to talk to him, but I'm very excited to talk to you. Very excited to talk about these Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf races. We're going to start off with the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf Sprint, and we're going to start with a horse we haven't talked about yet today, but that's one I know you want to speak on, and that is Ikoro Sieg. I hope I pronounced that right. A Japanese runner that's expected to come over. What got this one? What caught your eye on this one?
So first, before this horse even hit the racetrack, he went through the OBS sale and he breezed 9-4. He breezed 9-4, which was the tie for the second fastest work at OBS. So pretty serious horse. And then, this horse, he broke all tons of track records in Japan. He actually had the fastest trip from a juvenile in the history of Japan Racing Association. So this horse is super impressive. He's kind of, I don't know the price that you're going to be able to get on this horse. Obviously, we don't really know that yet, but I think that this is a horse that's kind of sneaky that you might be able to get at a decent price come race day. But yeah, this horse, he's going to be ridden by Christophe Lemaire. He's a son of Twirling Candy, great pedigree. He broke a 23-year-old course record by 0.6 seconds. So there's a lot to like about this horse. I think he's pretty interesting. And honestly, I haven't shown a lot of liking to a ton of the Japanese horses coming over, honestly. This one caught my eye. And then the American Bikini horse caught my eye as well. But these were just the two, honestly, that I thought looked like serious horses coming over. So
absolutely. Yeah. Japan coming over in full force. They're certainly sending a big handful of their, their A horses. They're probably sending some of their high B pluses, but they're coming over to win races. And it's going to make for a very, very competitive Breeders' Cup. Jackson, do you have something to add?
Yeah, I was going to say I woke up this morning, I had no idea who this horse was, and all I've been seeing all day on Twitter is that horse is speed, and that's what you want in that 5 furlong race. If you can draw well and just go to the front, a lot of times they don't stop at Del Mar. So if you can get 6-1, like it was said on Aragona's line, that's a solid bet.
Absolutely, with the field that obviously it's going to be a pretty strong field, but a little less. I mean, I think this horse is going to have a shot against the Europeans and the American horses here. So that's kind of what drew me to him. But
was he running on turf in Japan or is it on dirt?
He was running on turf in Japan. In his debut, he was on the lead and then he pulled away. He won by 5 lengths, 6 furlongs on the turf. And then in his second outing, that's when he broke that course record. Both on turf.
There you go.
That's going to be an exciting horse. And yeah, I'm with you, Jackson. If it's anything I've seen on X today, we're not getting 6-1 on this horse. He's going to be bet down significantly. Another horse that's coming from overseas that I know is on your radar is Shareholder by Carl Burke. Get a nice 12-1 on the projected morning line by Aragona. Obviously, none of these are official. But what are your thoughts on this horse if it comes over and draws into the race?
Well, I think that the reason why this horse is probably valued at 12-1 is because his last race wasn't that great. He finished last out of a group of 9, but he was also coming out of a 2-month layoff. So he broke his maiden in Yorkshire, and then he went to Royal Ascot. He was at 12-1. Those were his odds that day, and he won there. So Royal Ascot, obviously, you're going to take this horse pretty serious. And then he went on a 2-month layoff. Third start, he ran 9th in a grade 1. And then if you notice, his first 2 races that he won were on good firm turf. The third start where he finished last was on soft turf after a 2-month layoff. So that's something I noticed. Maybe with true firm turf here, the horse will be able to take a step up again.
Absolutely. Yeah. True firm is a great way to put it because I don't think Del Mar has seen a drop of rain. Though I'm pretty sure the sprinklers evaporate before the water hits the ground over there when they're watering those turf courses. So it is definitely going to be firm, but I think Shareholder definitely has the price. We've obviously seen, or definitely has a chance. We've definitely seen those European contenders, fare well in these types of races. A couple horses that you wanted to talk about that I at least don't have on my, on the DRF site necessarily, but one I would love to hear about is Big Mojo, which would be a possible horse to run. What do you have on Big Mojo there?
So this is a horse that I think is going to be a huge price. What I thought was kind of interesting is that it's the same trainer and owners that won the turf sprint, the juvenile turf sprint last year, which I thought was interesting. And then, sorry, I'm just going through my notes here, but
that is Big Evs last year that won the juvenile turf sprint. Jackson, you and I found that out yesterday because we had to do some digging ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. So his one win was over good firm turf. This is another one that I thought was, the horse likes firmer turf. He won on firmer turf. So that's kind of what I was thinking with this horse and the connections that won the same race last year. I mean, nothing really like stood out. I think this is just like a long shot I wanted to mention that, was kind of interesting to keep an eye on.
Yeah, absolutely. But long shots, anything in these turf sprints, it's all going to come down to the draw. We've seen obviously this summer was a little bit, it kind of bucked the trend a little bit of those 1, 2, 3 holes being so valuable in the 5 furlong turf sprints at Del Mar. But obviously you still want to be tucked down to the inside. That's still going to be of major importance come race day. You want to see those horses get cover, but something you mentioned about Big Mojo has had some success over the good to firm ground. And again, that's definitely the footing that you're going to get obviously on the firm side of the good to firm, but that is something that's really fun or really important to take a look at with those horses shipping over, because you want to be sure that they're going to handle that footing.
Absolutely. And any horse that, runs better on turf that's firmer and it's not actually firm, but just good firm. And then coming over here, I think that those are the horses that are probably going to take a big step up. But the horse I was more so interested in was a Wesley Ward horse, the Floodlights. Obviously, Wesley Ward 2-year-olds are obviously very dangerous all the time. He's a City of Light out of an Uncle Mo mare, so great pedigree there. Broke his maiden in his second start, which was his first start on turf. And he broke his maiden at Kentucky Downs, which that kind of sticks out to me because that's a really difficult turf course to navigate. Got a 72 buyer. And then he kind of bounced a little bit in his next start, but you see that I don't know exactly how many times, but I know horses coming out of Kentucky Downs struggle kind of next time out. So that can kind of make sense there. But his next start was the Indian Summer Stakes at Keeneland. He was beaten by Governor Sam. This was something that when I watched this race originally, I didn't notice this, but last night I watched the head-on to this race, and I noticed that Governor Sam horse, which I think is pointing here as well, rode the rail the whole time. Floodlights broke from the 12 post. He sat right alongside him. When they came around the turn, Governor Sam kind of drifted off the rail and looked to me like he bumped into Floodlights, which is when he just drifted completely out and then weakened after, and he was still able to hold on for third. So I thought that kind of explain that effort there, and you might get a little bit of a price coming out of that race. So I really like this horse, Wesley Ward 2-year-old. So yeah, I think that's going to be probably my top pick here.
Absolutely. Yeah. Love that. Anytime you can get a Wesley Ward at a price on turf sprinting, I mean, that's what he does best. So anything like that. Yeah. The horse is going to be primed to get out of the gate. Correct. They're going to be ready to run that distance. It sounds like this horse's third or fourth career start, if I have my numbers right. So hopefully trending in the right direction. You should get a good price because there are going to be a lot of, really talented horses in here. I do want to pivot over now to the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies turf and a horse that I would love for you to touch on. It's a horse that I wanted to pick on top very badly until I found out that Aiden O'Brien is sending over Lake Victoria. But I would love for you to touch on your thoughts on thought process.
So thought process is Phil D'Amato trains him. So Del Mar is his home track. I think that's a huge advantage here. He won in his second start, first start on turf. That's an 82 buyer. That's a pretty serious figure. First time on turf, so clearly has some pretty good turf form, and he likes Del Mar. Next time out, he won the juvenile turf my mistake.
It's okay.
Won the juvenile filly
Didn't have to do
stakes
that.
at Del Mar. 84 buyer there, took another step up, beating Super Speed. Last time out, won the Grade 3 Surfer Girl Stakes at Santa Anita by 4.5 lengths, 86 buyer. So this horse is in perfect form going into this, and seems to improve with every start. So that's why I liked her, and this being her home track.
Absolutely, yeah. The horse for course angle at Del Mar is massive, as it has those really tight turns, and it can be a tricky horse to navigate, or tricky course to navigate. And then, yeah, to see a horse like this flourish, going 2 for 2 over the course, and then a absolutely blowout win at Santa Anita. I was there that day. Who knows what this horse beat, but beat them well. Beat them the way that she should have. Got the 86 buyer, which is certainly strong for 2-year-olds this time of year. This race wouldn't surprise me. I again, I don't think I'm picking Thought Process on top, but probably second. Like Lake Victoria seems like a monster, but I wouldn't be surprised if the time of this race beats the time of the boys. Fillies often mature a little quicker than the boys do. That can probably be said for real life as well. But either way, yeah, I'm fairly confident that Thought Process could get at least close, could definitely get a slice of this with her already having 2 successful runs over that Del Mar course.
She doesn't have to ship out there, so that's another positive.
Correct. She's staying home. A horse that is coming off of a win. The buyer figures might be a little bit light, but coming off a really gutsy win, finishing between horses at Keeneland. That's Mayday Ready, trained by Joseph Lee. This was another horse that kind of caught your radar. What were your thoughts here? Because this horse had a really tough win, getting kind of swarmed on both sides and managed to really kind of re-rally and was really game in victory.
So first thing that struck me about this horse was the pedigree. She's a Tappet out of a No Nay Never mare. And then her dam actually is a Group 3 winner, Group 1 placed in Europe, second in the Frisette. And then she actually got third in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies on the turf at Keeneland, the Breeders' Cup there. And then this horse, Mayday Ready, sold for $60,000 as a yearling, and then took a big price increase, $325,000 at OBS April, breeze 10 flat. I watched the work, I liked it. And then I think the horse obviously broke her maiden at Saratoga. And then again went to Kentucky Downs to run in the Juvenile Filly Stakes and won. And that's again a very difficult turf course to navigate. So that's something I take a little bit serious there. Obviously, I think Del Mar is going to be a pretty an easy turf course compared to Kentucky Downs. And then she won the Jessamine Stakes at Keeneland, 73, got a 73 buyer there, beating Totally Justified and Destino d'Oro, which those are 2 very nice fillies. I think, whether those 2 are better than this one, I don't really know, but I think that this horse, again, could be, a good price and a horse that I'd take a shot with her track record and the form that she's in. So.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a great analysis there. Jackson, you and I talked about Totally Justified going into that race because we covered that card. And you and I both were trying to fade that horse because we thought she just got a dream trip, I believe in the Miss Grillo, 2 back up at, Aqueduct? Ran in the stakes there. Virgin Colada finished. And then you had the John Ortiz runner that I had singled on the day, but I don't want to talk about that. We were coming into the day, not really looking towards Totally Justified, but she ran a really good race in there, obviously finishing a really, really close in defeat. Was one of those horses kind of swarming around Mayday Ready. Another horse, though, that is coming out of the Miss Grillo and actually finished first in the Miss Grillo. So I was mistaken. That wasn't Totally Justified. That wasn't that race. But we have Scythian, I believe, trained by Bill Mott.
I was like,
I know. I throw myself off.
Yeah,
Again,
I know what you're talking about.
I throw myself off, so that's on me. But we have Scythian, I believe, is how it's pronounced. This guy, Mott, and the ownership, whoever names these horses between Scylla and I can't keep track of. There's too many letters and consonants going on. I'm just trying to buy a vowel at the end of the day. We have Scythian, though. Bill Mott has been kind of cold since Saratoga ended. I believe he's 2 for 50 up at Aqueduct, if I have my stats right. And he's like 1 for something at Keeneland. However, Hall of Fame trainer for a reason. He's going to have this horse ready for a Breeders' Cup race. So I'm tossing all those stats out the window. What are your thoughts on Scythian here?
I completely agree in terms of his stats. He had a monster Breeders' Cup last year. He's a Hall of Fame trainer. He has every right to win here. He gets Junior Alvarado aboard, obviously. But yeah, this horse won the Miss Grillo by 2.5 lengths, going 1 mile and a 16th. And then obviously we're going a mile here. So this horse should be dead fit going into this. She got a 77 buyer there, improving with every start. She's prepping at Saratoga, which I like. I don't know the exact number, but I know horses that tend to prep and train, work at Saratoga before heading to the Breeders' Cup do well. Her running style, I think, could be used to her advantage here. She sits right off the pace. In every race that she's ran, she sits right off the pace, saving a lot of ground, and she makes a big bid in the final furlong, which, could give her a bit of an edge here. And then also, her first time going on the turf, she broke her maiden going 1 mile and a 16th, and she was against the boys. And obviously that's, that doesn't really say much if you're going at a shorter distance, but, at 1 mile and a 16th against the boys, I tend to take that, put some weight into that. So, and obviously I just love Belmont too. So that's kind of why I picked this horse on top here.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, he's an incredible trainer, Hall of Fame for a reason. And, we mentioned kind of the bit of a cold streak coming in. This horse was one of his winners up at Aqueduct during this kind of, I don't want to call it a fade away from Saratoga, but so many trainers, point their horses towards Saratoga. So there's a clear, kind of fall off after that, because your horses have to kind of recover. They only have so many A races. You can't have them at 100%, et cetera. This horse, though, just kept improving. Obviously going from a 58 buyer, 3-back, now to a 77 coming in. That's one of the best in the field in terms of the U.S. runners. So that's certainly something to look at. A horse that has some tactical speed, can be placed really well, can finish strong. And then you mentioned is going to have a lot of fitness coming into this race, having raced at the 1 mile and a 16th coming into this one. A horse that I actually don't see on our probable list, but a horse that is a force to be reckoned with if he ships over, is January, trained by, I want to say, Aidan O'Brien, if I'm not mistaken. What caught your eye on that horse?
Well, we're not really sure if the horse. Yeah, I know. We're not really sure, I guess. I read every article on who Aidan O'Brien's sending over, and I'm not 100% sure, as we aren't with most of these, if they're coming over or not. But yeah, the horse is bred and owned by Coolmore. You put a lot of weight on that. She's by Kingman, and she's out of a mare who's a Group 2 winner, and placed in a whole bunch of top level races, Queen Elizabeth Stakes, Sussex Stakes. And this horse debuted at Curragh, where she finished second in a field of 11, winning 6 furlongs. Then she won at Second Asking, 7 furlongs. And then she became, in her next start, she became the stakes winner. She did the Coolmore Stud Churchill Stakes, 7.5 furlongs. She won easily there by 4 lengths. And then she traveled to England. She finished second, just by, a length and a half. And then she actually trained at, she went to the Bet 365 Fillies Mile at Woodbine. So obviously now the horse has experience, going around. I like that she raced at Woodbine against a good field of horses. And then she finished second in a field of 7. Again, that was on good to soft turf. So all of her races were run on good firm or good soft turf. So this is another one that I think getting to an actual true firm turf can give her a big step up as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. January would certainly be a force to reckon with. I think the pre-entry past performances come out tomorrow. So we're this close. Our show was just scheduled on the wrong day, I guess. But, tomorrow we'll have a really closer look of who exactly is in it. But those are thoughts and analysis of who we expect to be in the race. A lot of these, should ship over, barring, as long as they're working well. Something you brought up talking about Scythian for Bill Mott is those East Coast shippers, primarily from New York, when they're shipping over, they tend to have a lot of success. Just last year in the juvenile fillies, you had Hard to Justify, trained by Chad Brown, shipped over from Saratoga and got the job done. Bill Mott obviously got it done in the juvenile fillies with Just FYI. They both share the same common sire and Justify, who just wins on anything. And then do you have a kind of top pick of those three races that we've covered between the juvenile turf sprint, the juvenile fillies, and the fillies turf and the juvenile turf? Do you have a, who's your top pick or most likely winner, we'll call it, in those three?
I don't think we went through the juvenile turf yet, but that's
we did not. You're right.
Yeah,
that's on me. I'm jumping all over the place. No, host fail. It's that's gonna happen. Yeah, no, we definitely have not touched on this race. Thank you. I was gonna say I'm all over the place. A horse that I would love for you to talk about in the Breeders' Cup, the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf, is going to be a horse that we haven't talked about yet. Yet this horse is 2 for 2. It's coming from France, 3 for 3 overall. I think you know who I'm talking about. That's Zulu Kingdom, trained by Chad Brown. Maybe doesn't have the highest buyers, but is one of those horses that just continues to get it done and continues to win. What were your thoughts on Zulu Kingdom here?
Well, this is my top pick here. I'd actually be kind of surprised if this horse isn't one of the favorites. So obviously, like you said, this horse started in France for Andre Fabre, who's one of the best trainers in France. He broke his maiden over there and then switched over to Chad Brown's barn. So this horse has faced European company before and came from a top barn over there. Obviously not facing other winners, but still I think that's, an advantage maybe for this horse. So he went over to Chad Brown's barn, second time out, won the With Anticipation, going a mile and a 16th at Saratoga. And he beat Tenacious Leader, who's a pretty decent horse. And Zulu Kingdom got an 80 buyer. That was the first time racing in America on firm turf. And honestly, I don't know why, for example, this horse's buyers aren't really far off from Mentee. I know Mentee ran an 88 in debut, but that was on the dirt. And then, if I'm not mistaken, yes, it was on the dirt. And then 63 in the hopeful. And then an 83 is the figure that Mentee got in the futurity on turf. So I don't know how Zulu Kingdom doesn't, stack up really against Mentee. Third time out, Zulu Kingdom ran a 76. So I guess that's kind of where that idea comes from. But that horse, that was on yielding turf, so that kind of stuck out to me. I feel like that's maybe the horse just didn't like the surface. And then Chad Brown's stats are, deadly anywhere, anytime. So yeah, I think that this is going to be my top pick. And Chad Brown even said that this horse you'll see the best of him going a mile. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
Absolutely. That's certainly a vote of confidence from Chad. And yeah, this is one of those, if this horse gets away at double-digit odds, that is, good for me, because I'll probably end up betting this horse in some way, shape, or form, because too many times Chad Brown has proved that his Euros can beat, the Euros coming over, still trained by those trainers. He just does such a great job. I'm in the boat of just tossing whatever buyers are coming in, because he can have them primed for that A race. You mentioned Zulu Kingdom ran on yielding ground last time out. That certainly could have taken an effect on the lower buyer that you see, because that's tough for those 2-year-olds. It's tough for the babies to run over that kind of ground. And that being said, that does add some fitness into this horse coming in. That's a much more trying course to run over, and then to come in and get that really firm turf you're going to get over at Del Mar. That's certainly something you could look for. Could have an extra kind of bottom. Jackson, what are your thoughts on Zulu Kingdom?
I don't love him. I thought in both those races he won that he was the beneficiary of the runner-up having a troubled trip in that spot. And then just in general, in the turf, I'd take the Euros. Even Chad doesn't really have that much success in this race. He's only won it once compared to the Philly race. He's won I don't know, 7 or 8 times. Feels like he wins it a lot. Again, I default to the Euros in this race typically, unless there's just some kind of monster that we have, which should, at least thus far, doesn't seem that way.
Yeah, certainly can agree with you on that one. Kaylee, you mentioned a horse real quick, and that was Mentee, obviously the full brother to Fierceness, who's going to be running in the Classic, most likely. I'm fading Fierceness. I'm not sure what to make of Mentee. What are your thoughts on this horse?
This horse had a very impressive debut on the dirt, breaking a course record. But so obviously the horse has a lot of speed, really nice sprinter. But when I thought about it, the horse, there's not a lot of, the horse broke the track record at a track where they don't typically hold 2-year-old races at that time of year. If I'm not wrong,
they never run on that.
Yeah.
So that didn't really mean anything to me, honestly. And then obviously it's really cool and it's a nice horse, and then when I saw the horse switch to the turf, he looked really good on the turf, but yeah, I don't know. Questions about the distance. I don't know why you can't take them all. So I just don't know why you would take this horse over any of the Euros or the Chad Brown horse. So that's kind of why I'm fading him here.
Absolutely. Yeah, you mentioned the Euros coming in here, and those are the next ones we're going to talk about, and they're kind of all right next to each other on this projected morning line. You want to talk about the top and the bottom. That's Alcudra down on the bottom and Whistle Jacket up top, trained by Charlie Appleby and Aiden O'Brien, respectively, with a nice horse in New Century kind of splitting the difference. What are your thoughts on these Euros coming over?
Well, I really like Whistle Jacket. I wasn't too familiar with the horse, and I watched all of his replays last night. I just think that he's a nice, speedy horse. The times that he won, he looks like he won pretty easily. And something, obviously, Aiden O'Brien, Ryan Moore, owned by Peter Brandt and Coolmore. So you got to take this horse pretty serious. He was a $635,000 yearling in Tattersall's book 1. He's a son of No Nay Never, clearly has great pedigree. So he broke his maiden second time out, then placed 4th at Royal Ascot. So that was another thing I noticed. And then won a Group 1 at Deauville easily and on good soft turf. So this is another horse that I think is going to enjoy firmer turf. And yeah, obviously the connections is mostly what attracted me. And then watching the replays, looks like a serious horse. So
definitely. And you can tell just by the morning line maker. Obviously, David Aragona out and makes the morning line for those tracks in New York. Best in the country, in my opinion. I don't care whatever stats people pull that could tell you otherwise. David Aragona, his morning lines are the best in the game. And you can tell that the 3 Europeans coming over are 1, 2, 3 in the betting. New Century and Alcudra both coming out of the summer stakes at Woodbine, finishing a respective 1-2. What were your thoughts on them? And if I had to, or actually, I'll have you tell us, who do you prefer coming out of that race?
I mean, I have Al Quadra on my list. Obviously a Charlie Appleby horse, William Buick aboard. And this horse is working at Keeneland every 3 or 4 days up to this. Took until the 3rd start to break the maiden, and then went to Royal Ascot, got 5th by a length, and then won a stakes at Ascot, and then came over to Woodbine and got 2nd in a Grade 1, like you just said. So there's not really anything that made me look at this horse rather than New Century. I mean, we don't really know exactly who's going and what the pace is going to be like, but again, this horse got 2nd in that race. Maybe you can get him at a bit more of a price than New Century, but with the connections and the track record, I thought that this horse was pretty interesting.
Definitely. And you got to note the buyers that were on there with a 93 for New Century for a 2-year-old is phenomenal. 91 for Alcudra finishing 2nd is almost as phenomenal. But for those numbers as a 2-year-old, those are 2 real players. Whistle Jacket, I know, has some strong time form numbers coming in, so that's going to be a horse to be reckoned with. Jackson brought up a great point with Chad Brown not having the most success in here. So even though Zulu Kingdom knows his way to the winner's circle, he might be maybe in over his head here, but a lot is going to come down to the post position draw, because going a mile, that turn comes up pretty quick. You need to save ground going around those sharp turns. So it's going to be a deeply competitive race, as are all of these turf races. Do you have a favorite horse running on Juvenile Friday that you're looking, most forward to running?
If it's not on the turf, I mean, I've been very closely following all the 2-year-old dirt horses. I love Chancer McPatrick. I don't know how, he's going to do. I mean, he's never ran 2 turns, but, this horse, every single race, he overcomes some obstacle, or even if things don't set up for him, he always manages to win. This horse, he has like a fighter mentality. He's a cool horse. I think he's the horse to beat there. A horse that I think, honestly, that you'll, and I love East Avenue. That horse I was obsessed with ever since he broke his maiden. I just love that horse. The Dam is a half to Cody's Wish. There's a lot to like about that horse. And then another one, Ferocious. The horse has done nothing wrong at all. And I think, honestly, with these second places, I think that you're going to get a pretty decent price compared to the others. So if Ferocious is anywhere near 8-1, 10-1, that's the horse I'll bet all day at that price. I think that's a gift to get that horse at that price.
It absolutely
going to
is.
get it. I don't know how he's 5th choice probably at best.
Yeah,
I would think. I mean, because Jonathan's Way will get money. One of the Baffords will take some money, and then East Avenue and Chancer. So you'll get close to that, I would think.
You should. Yeah, that's going to be an exceptional betting race, and I'm in your boat. I do love Ferocious a lot in that spot. Hasn't done much wrong. East Avenue faced no adversity in that win. Obviously won the right way and kind of romped home, but Fierceness was chasing. He wasn't giving up. He wasn't beating a group of Ferocious. Oh man, wasn't beating a bunch of nobodies in that race. This race could set up really nicely for him. He's got a nice closing kick. Going back to Chancer McPatrick, something that, obviously he's only raced 1 turn. He's been very, very far out of it, and has just been able to kind of make up the ground on everybody, and just has a almost turf-like closing kick on the dirt. I'm curious your thoughts. Do you think going 2 turns for the first time, do you think that's going to kind of, and going obviously the farthest distance he will have gone to this point, do you think that's going to kind of bring him into the race a little bit more?
Bring him into the race a little bit more. He's going to try to be closer, breaking, or are you saying like closer, like not
just more, more kind of in touch with the crowd.
I don't know, but I don't really think he has to be. In my opinion, I think that he can just start making his late bet a little bit earlier than he typically does. I don't really think he needs to be as close. Closer. I think honestly, he's managed to close on some really serious horses. Obviously, it is a question. 2 turns is a bit different, but I don't think that he'll have a struggle, or that he really needs to do anything differently. I'd imagine they're going to try to, but worst case scenario, if he is sitting last, I don't really think it'll be an issue for him.
Got it. Hey, this might be my fault. Jackson, is the audio all right for you? Or was it cutting out there?
No, it's cutting out. I thought it was just my computer's old.
Okay, I did too. The audio just got a tiny bit grainy there for just a second. So sorry about that one. But yeah, I did like your analysis on Chancer McPatrick. I do think he's got a real shot. I think there's going to be enough pace in that race. But those are, those 3 getting off of the, horses we're most excited to watch run. The Juvenile Turf Sprint, the Juvenile Turf, and the Juvenile Fillies Turf are 3 exceptional grass races we have. They're all going to be deeply competitive. We have some really strong Euros coming over. And now that we've actually covered all 3 races, do you have a top pick or most likely winner for those 3? One of those 3.
For the Juvenile Turf, I think Whistle Jacket's going to be my top choice. I know I said Zulu King, but I think Whistle Jacket's a better horse. I mean, I guess we'll see when they face each other, but yeah, I really like the Whistle Jacket horse. And then for the Fillies, I mean, I like Scythian. for Beaumont. I'm rooting for Beaumont, whether that means the horse is just as good as the other ones. I mean, we don't really know, but that's exciting with these that's what's the most exciting with these babies, is that one of them can, turn the tables on the others pretty quickly. And then for the sprint, I really like the Japanese horse. I think that the fact that it's, attracting so much attention as well, broke course records, and honestly, the breeze is what really got me at the OBS sale. That horse is, a speedball. So I think that's going to be my top pick in the sprint for sure.
Awesome. Yeah, those are 3 excellent top picks. I love the Beaumont selection in the fillies, because I think if you're going to beat the Euros on grass, it's got to be done with the fillies, and it's got to be done with the 2-year-olds, because that's kind of, not to say that's their weak spot, but that's where they are weakest. The sprinters, I'm curious to see how the Japanese horse, Ikoro Saig, is maybe how it's pronounced. I'm curious to see how that runner does. Obviously, you have the 3-headed monster almost with Whistle Jacket, New Century, and Alcudra coming over. Alcudra obviously training at Keeneland right now, but they're all going to be shipping over to Del Mar here, I believe, this week, Tuesday or Wednesday. If I had my notes right, because they got to start their works out at Del Mar for those that choose to. Thank you for all that analysis. Real quick, a little more about you. Clearly, you're big on handicapping. You're huge deep dives into the pedigree on a lot of these. So that was some really great insight. You mentioned you just kind of got into horse racing, a couple years back. What got you so into the handicapping part of it? And then the second question on top of that, what's your favorite kind of wagering? What's your favorite kind of wager?
Well, handicapping, I mean, I didn't do much handicapping, I guess, as a young girl, but I definitely was sitting with forms and learning how to read the form at a very young age with my dad at the track and placing bets. So, I mean, serious handicapping is obviously a recent thing. I'd say Breeders' Cup 2 years ago was when I really started getting into it. And obviously spending summers at Saratoga, I would do decent amount of handicapping. And then since joining Naira Bets, I really wanted to get involved in content. I loved handicapping, decided to just, put the two together. But my favorite bet, I mean, I do a lot of just exactas, honestly, or I like doing just straight exactas if I'm confident, exacta boxes. And that's my favorite type of bet, probably. But
nice.
Yeah.
Exactas can certainly pay.
I think
you don't
I
have to
missed
wait
your last
long.
question, but
Oh no, my favorite was, what's your favorite type of wager? As a result, like, I'm a big horizontal player. Jackson, I'm actually not entirely sure what yours is, but we just do pick fives on our shows all the time, so that's kind of what I assume.
I'm win and double is probably 90% of my play now, and then I'll do an occasional pick five and an occasional exacta if I want to back it up or something. But it's mostly wins and doubles now.
Nice. Well, Kaylee, again, thank you. With your favorite bet, though, or wager rather, being an exacta, that's a type of play you could play in a tournament. Obviously, you can't play pick fives in tournaments, which has kind of dissuaded me from entering those. But I guess I got to get my tourney hat on at some point. Have you ever thought of getting into the tournament game with stuff like that?
I haven't really thought about it. I mean, I think I have a lot of improving to do. I think, obviously I pick winners a decent amount of times, but I still think I have a lot to learn before I do something like that. But I'm learning pretty quickly. So, maybe one day. But
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, of course, best of luck to any tournament you enter. You'll be competing against Jackson, who I'm sure is going to say that he's going to finish on top as
we're trying to break our maiden still. We're close a few times, but I think we're 0 for 5, so not quite a career maiden yet. Almost. We're getting there.
Getting close. Well, Kaylee, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciated all the insight. That was an excellent deep dive into a lot of pedigrees, a lot of the European, Japanese shippers that are coming over that provided a lot of insight that, I probably wouldn't have had otherwise. I didn't have those, OBS works at my disposal, but that's clearly something you're really keyed in on, which is awesome, because I think that goes a long way with these 2-year-olds, showing the ability that they may have and how they can progress as they get older. But best of luck to you. Thanks so much for joining the show. We'll definitely have you on again soon. Best of luck if any bets at Keeneland tomorrow. Hope you play the Aqueduct carryover.
Might need to do some last minute handicapping on that. I haven't looked yet, but yeah, definitely. And thank you so much for having me. I had fun hanging out. Wish, with a forum would have been able to, do a bit of a deeper dive and pace and, actually pick, horses on top or put together wagers, but just happy to discuss the runners and excited to see, what happens in the Breeders' Cup, and hope you guys have a great time out there.
Yeah, we will. Jackson and I are going to have a good time. I think we're out there Thursday through Saturday. Obviously, I'll be there, Sunday too, because I'm not gonna stay away a day after the party ends. Degenerate activity for sure. But again, Kaylee, can't thank you enough for joining us. That was excellent. Take care, and hope to talk to you soon.
Take care. Thank you so much. Bye.
All right, that was Kaylee Shapiro, everybody. That was an excellent analysis. We had an excellent performance from Matt Miller to start us off. Again, giveaway is going to be posted in the comments. The details, I'll put them on the bottom banner one more time for y'all. But please subscribe to the channel. You're going to pick the winner and the payout price. That's going to be the tiebreaker determiner of the Bryan Station Grade 2 Stakes at Keeneland this Saturday, 10/26. Put your predictions down in the comment section. And again, the winner will receive a copy of Matt Miller's book, A Better Way of Thinking. The link to that book, if you'd like to just buy it online as well, is in the description of this video. It's an excellent book. It teaches you how to wager, which, yes, handicapping is a key part of this game, but knowing how and what to wager is such a massive part. You can't make any money if you don't know how to wager. So it's an excellent tool to have at your disposal. It's an excellent read to have, just in your handicapping toolbox, in your wagering toolbox, if you will. But that was an excellent gesture by Matt. Obviously, we had some great analysis from Tony Calo as well, the race caller at Ellis and Turfway. Very familiar with those Kentucky runners. And then again, Kaylee Shapiro to cap us off here. New at Naira Bets, but excellent in the handicapping. Excellent, looking into those pedigrees, paying attention to those OBS sale works, and a big deep dive into the Euro and Japanese runners. Jackson, we got two more shows. We got Monday and Tuesday of next week. Pre-entry PPs are coming out tomorrow, so I'm excited to take a look at those. You and I are going to be back on Friday. We're going to be doing the late pick 5 at Churchill Downs for their 2-year-old Sundays. We'll probably do a live stream on Friday.
We may be back tomorrow too. We're not 100% sure yet.
I'm pretty sure we'll be back tomorrow. We can't stay away for too long.
For
those wondering, we're coming back tomorrow. We're loading y'all. We're flooding y'all with content. We got to come back tomorrow because there is a massive 6-figure carryover at Aqueduct again. So we got to put our handicapper hats back on. We got to get a ticket in there. And who knows, maybe we give our thoughts on a very difficult $2 pick 6 carryover at Santa Anita for Friday as well. I don't know yet. You'll have to tune in and find out. But to everybody that came, stuck around, and joined the stream for tonight, looking at the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf, the Juvenile Fillies Turf, and the Juvenile Turf Sprint, can't thank you enough. Any parting words, Jackson, as we wrap up today's show and get ready for tomorrow's?
Not really. I'm glad we're doing these shows. I feel like my handicapping for Friday is basically done already. I got a lot of great info, right. So we're good. Exactly.
I just got to get the past performances out, got to get those final opinions, but I have the thoughts of, who I like to see. I got the analysis. I'm watching works. I kind of like a steady ramp up into the Breeders' Cup rather than, jam it all at once. And honestly, the more I kind of get into, or the more years I spend in the game, I should say, the easier it is to kind of remember these horses' last races, like Zulu Kingdoms. I have in my head pretty good, along with, many others. But then there's some others that, you do have to do a little bit of research. You got to do the trip handicapping, everything like that. But an excellent show. So thanks everybody for joining. Jackson, thank you as always for joining. Thank you to all of our guests, Matt Miller, Tony Calo, and Kaylee Shapiro. We will see you tomorrow for the Aqueduct Pick 6 carryover. This is your host, Ryan. That's Jackson. Thanks so much. We'll see you.